Welcome back to the Home Cooking Survival Guide for your busy work week. In part one, we covered shopping, we covered prep. In part two, we were executing meals, really putting together the perfect work meals. Today, in part three, we're covering what I think is the biggest value you can get out of cooking and the number one reason you should be a home cook, which is being able to make something out of nothing. Really being able to survive off just a few ingredients in your pantry and your fridge. And that's what tends to happen towards the end of the week. When you're running out of supplies, you've run out of a lot of the food that you prepared on the weekend when you had time. Those days are long gone. So how do you still get through the rest of the week on home cooked food? And that's what we are covering today. How to survive the end of the week. Let's talk end of the week survival, and this is generally how my weeks are going to play out. It could be totally different for your schedule, but you know, this is standard stuff where the weekend, like we covered in part one, you're shopping and you're prepping whatever free time you have. You can put it towards cooking, so Monday and Wednesday you're ready to execute. You've got those meals prepped, you've got your snacks prepped, all of those things are ready to go. Everything's going pretty smooth. And then Thursday and Friday come, potentially even Wednesday, where you're kind of in survival mode. You've run out of a lot of the prep stuff, but you still might have some ingredients in your fridge. You've got pantry stuff. So that's where things get tricky. So the way I like to get through the end of the week is I'll come home on a Wednesday and I'll cook dinner, but I make sure to make twice the amount so I have leftovers. Leftovers being the key because they carry over into Thursday's work lunch, which is so important. And then you're just filling in the gaps. And then you would do the same thing for Thursday night. You'd come home, cook a quick dinner, leftovers carry over into Friday lunch. Now for Wednesday's dinner, I tend to have enough ingredients around to put together a solid meal. By Thursday, that's when it turns into a bit of a shit show. I'm just going like pantry style, full on survival. So I'm gonna show you both scenarios. And remember just to keep in mind these two keys to success. This is so important. One being creativity. The definition of creativity, the use of imagination. That is so important. When you get towards the end of the week, you really have to use your full creativity when it comes to cooking because you're gonna be out of a lot of ingredients. You gotta look at what you have, you gotta scour the pantry, scour the fridge, and put your mind to work, put your imagination to work, which brings us into Freestyle, a contest in which there are very few restrictions, and I've highlighted few restrictions because that is the key word right here. When we are in survival mode, no restrictions in the kitchen. Don't worry about recipes or anything you've seen. You've got to use your creativity and you got to freestyle to make good food at home. Those are your keys to success and we're about to put them in action. So I've scoured the fridge and the pantry, and like I said, a Wednesday night, I've still got some ingredients. I've still got some freshies involved. So we got a few of those leeks that we bought at the farmer's market. We got some of the bok choy, a few mushrooms. We've got more lamb stock. I found some rice noodles too, which is great. Rice noodles or any type of noodles are just always great to have around. And if you have this stock lying around and you have the noodles, well, that's an instant noodle soup. So all we have to do is just figure out how these other ingredients are going to incorporate into the soup. Always soak your rice noodles in some cold water to soften them up. So first I'm just gonna chop up my veggies. I've got these leeks. I'll slice those nice and thin and then just rough chop the cremini mushrooms. Now I got a pan on medium heat and I added some pork fat. I like the extra flavor from the pork fat, but you can use any type of neutral oil. I added my leeks and started sauteing those. And then I grated in some ginger. There was some ginger in the stock, but I wanted some fresh ginger in there as well. And then I added in my mushrooms once that cooked down a bit, and then just cook those veggies until they start breaking down. And that's when you can add your lamb stock. I ended up adding all the lamb stock plus a little extra water because that lamb stock was pretty concentrated. Now just bring that up to a boil and let that cook for a few minutes. See, this is what I'm talking about. When you do a little prep in the beginning of the week and you make a stock, It takes no time to put together this meal. You know, this entire dish is coming together in 20 minutes, and you can do that after work, no problem. All I need to do now is just flavor this up. It's a lamb stock, and we already put spices in the stock, so you can take it in any direction. But because we have the rice noodles, I'm just gonna add a little bit of soy sauce, some mirin, and just a tiny bit of sesame oil. Now, if I had more time, I would take the bok choy and I would blanch it separately. I would probably cook the rice noodles separately. But since we're in survival mode, boom shalaka. The soup is exactly where we want it flavor-wise. Take the rice noodles that have been soaked and just let those cook for about 2 minutes now, and then this thing is ready to serve for dinner. This noodle dish took 25 minutes to make. Super simple because we already put in a lot of effort to developing really good flavor in that lamb stock, which went a long way in this dish. But most importantly, I made plenty of this. I have enough for leftovers for lunch tomorrow. And now that we have our main meal for tomorrow, it's really easy to just, fit in the rest of the pieces and balance out the entire workday meal. I've got the soup tomorrow for lunch. Now I just have to fill in the gaps like breakfast and snacks. So I thought it'd be a perfect time to get into my daily harvest stash. So I went searching in the freezer and I found one that's perfect for some end of the week action. A cold brew coffee and almond smoothie. It's got some bananas in it, some almond, some coffee, some cocoa, a little bit of coconut oil, some sea salt, and some green coffee. I feel like I need a little kick at this point. I've been filming all week. I've been cooking all week, so these daily harvest cups are super, super helpful when you're in a crunch. And unfortunately, my almond cashew milk that I prepared this weekend, that stash is done. My wife has been making way too many matcha lattes, so what I'm gonna do is take some of the yogurt that I made, mixed with a little bit of water, and that should still give it a nice little creamy kick, and just blend it up, and you're good to go. That is delicious and definitely the boost I need to power through the end of the week. And I love how Daily Harvest is customizable. Obviously, I would have loved to have the almond cashew milk in there, but the yogurt's nice as well. It definitely works, and again, we're surviving, we're using what we have. And if you guys are interested in ordering your own Daily Harvest cups, you can click the link below and type in the code word BrothersGreen for 3 free cups. I would highly suggest trying them out. You can keep them in your freezer and just use them anytime you want. And they're just super fresh. They freeze the product right when it's at its most ripe or freshest, so it always makes for a really, really fresh result. So my goal is always to make it through the week without having to buy extra ingredients. Just really survive off that initial shop. I actually like the restrictions when you get down to very few things in your refrigerator and pantry. That's when you normally get creative. You get out of your comfort zone and you start creating dishes that you've never created for. But I do have a confession. I was walking the streets yesterday and I saw the first yellow mango of the season, at least a yellow mango that looked good. After months of not having these, my mind always goes straight to the Thai dish, the coconut sticky rice with the mango on top. And it's really simple to make, and usually I have this stuff in my pantry. All you need is some rice and some coconut, and that's pretty much it. As for rice, all I have is some sushi rice, which is totally fine, but I'm just going to wash this really well to get the excess starch off there. And then once it's washed, I'm gonna use a 1-to-1 ratio of rice to water, bring it up to a boil, and then turn the heat down to very low and let it cook for about 15 minutes, and then just turn the heat off, and now you can add in your coconut. I had some coconut cream in the pantry, so I just added a few scoops of that. And this dish is traditionally like a street food dessert. I like it sweet. You can have it for breakfast too, but I'm gonna use some maple syrup to sweeten it up, and then just a little salt to bring out all the flavors, and just mix that together and put the cap back on and let that sit for another 5 minutes to let all of those flavors meld, and also to give the rice a few minutes of steam so it can cook through completely. Great example of just using some pantry ingredients to put a little dish together in 20 minutes, and that will last me at least 2 days, keeping the variety up. You whip that out at lunch, you're gonna be a happy camper, and this is just so much better than rice pudding. Come on.
So here you go. This is what a midweek lunch might look like. We've got the leftover soup right there, the mango sticky rice action. I had a blood orange and I was just looking for something extra, just a little snack, so I cut that up. Some more popcorn. The salty snack is huge to get through those late day cravings. And then we have this delicious coffee smoothie from Daily Harvest with the homemade yogurt in it. That's gonna be a nice boost in the morning to get through the day.
It's been a long week of cooking, but I've been doing well, and I really want to continue this streak of just eating well, eating a lot of home-cooked food. So I want to show you one more thing, which is what a Thursday night looks like when the fridge is just weak sauce. There's just not much going on, and you really got to dig for a meal that hopefully can be your Thursday night dinner and also carry on to your Friday lunch. So what tends to happen in these situations is I make some type of grain bowl or rice bowl because it's super simple. You can kind of throw anything you want in it. I actually had some quinoa that I cooked earlier this week, so that'll be the base. I've got some purple potatoes. You remember those from the farmer's market? I'll roast those. And then a fried egg on top is a great way to just add some protein to round off a dish. And there was one more experiment. Let me get that. So last night I made some dough. You remember the yogurt I made? Well, you get whey as a byproduct, and I thought it would be interesting to try to make dough out of that. So what I did was I added the yogurt whey to a bowl. You could totally use milk or water. And then I used my sourdough starter, and you could replace this with regular baker's yeast. I would say about a teaspoon would be a good equivalent. And then I added some salt and started mixing in my whole wheat flour until it formed a dough. I let that sit for about 10 minutes, and then I started kneading the dough for about 10 minutes until it was nice and smooth. So I let this sit to proof in the fridge overnight, and then I took it out of the fridge, and it's been sitting around for a little bit. To be honest, it's not rising that much. My goal is to make some pitas with this, so we'll see. It hasn't really proofed. It rose a little bit, so we'll see if I can make some nice pitas, which would be great with this dish. Getting scrappy with it. So while those potatoes were roasting, they look nice and roasty, I threw in a pan to preheat, and this thing is scorching hot, and I'm gonna throw the pitas right on that. So here, let's see what happens. They probably only need, 2 minutes aside, if that. Pop that back in. We'll see. All right, not the full puff, but ooh, wow. Nice and light. I like it. Back in for just another 30 seconds. Now this might be the first of its kind. Oh. First of all, look at that pocket. Look at that pocket. Wow! That's hot. Yogurt, whey, sourdough, pitas. Gotta try this. It's definitely a little more sour than your normal pita from the combination of the yogurt and the sourdough starter and the long fermentation, but ultimately it's just a really delicious pita. There we go. All right, now I'm a happy camper. Look at that. It's a balloon. Another great example of a Daily Harvest bowl saving my ass right now. I don't have many fresh vegetables in there, so having them frozen is a great option. This right here is red lentils and cumin. It's got some cauliflower in there, some carrot, some coconut, some spinach, all good stuff, and then a bunch of spices. So I think if I cook it down nice and thick, it will be perfect to go over the quinoa and sort of mix in with everything else. I just realized I used all of the lamb stock on that soup, so I'm just gonna go with water on this one, but it still should taste great because there's a lot of spices in here and there's gonna be other flavors in this dish. There you go. That's what throwing a meal together late in the week looks like. I've got the pita. I'll have extra food for tomorrow. That's a nice little dinner, a little bit of creativity, some freestyle. There's always something to cook. If you have a few ingredients in your pantry, your fridge, you can always make something work. Whoa, wow, we made it through the work week just in time because I am tired. It's one thing to cook for the work week. I'm a pro at that at this point, but to film a whole series on it, that is new for me, and that took a lot out of me, but I hope you guys learned something. You know, it's not about taking away exact recipes or following what I do. It's just about getting in there and cooking for yourself, showing up every single day to cook for yourself, for your family. This is what I do. This is what I care about. I like cooking my own food, so I have a connection to it. I know what goes in it, and I know it's going to power me through the work week, so I'm feeling good the entire time. And a special thanks to Daily Harvest for making this whole series possible. I'm a big fan of their smoothies and their harvest bowls because it just gives me that little extra help. You saw in this whole series, it was really nice when I was running out of food or whatever it was, just to grab a little cup in the freezer and customize it a little bit, so I still felt connected to that dish. And remember, if you're interested in trying Daily Harvest, make sure you click the link below. You can get 3 cups off your first order if you type in the code word Brothers Green at checkout. And let me know if you're interested in this type of series, this home cooking survival guide. I love doing it. This is what I do in my normal life. It's a huge passion of mine, and I would love to spread more of it to you guys. But until next time, good eating.